Hey everyone, so this is our fourth or fifth episode of Build with Stakki. This week we have one of our favorite partners, one of the partners that we believe is using AI in one of the most intelligent ways to actually support humans and then support humans talking to humans, which we still think is the core of sales. Omid, CEO over at SecondBody. Omid, do you want to introduce yourself? Say hi to everyone.
I appreciate you having me on the show, man. As you said, we've been building SecondBody and I've been in sales. So the problem that we're solving today has been part of my life for the last couple of years. One thing that is so exciting and promising to me is the fact that in a world where every company that we are hearing and seeing out there is trying to replace humans with AI, because they get the funding easier and faster. We've been very bullish about one thing, which is we want to enhance humanity's greatest superpower, which is conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all we are working on, using conversational AI to help sellers, managers, CSM people to upskill their conversational skills. So whenever they're talking to a customer, they're having their A game instead of
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
messing it up. I actually grew a sales team from 0 to 52 in my previous company,
Yeah.
and it was from 40K to 16 million of ARR.
Yeah.
And that thing taught me a lot. I actually failed during that time. At some point, I had a lot of wins. And one thing that stood out was the fact that it's all about human relationships. And if you can help people navigate those relationships when they are talking to their customers, these people are going to end up becoming a better version of themselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's what we are working on and so focused on.
Nice. Excellent introduction there. Gave us enough without telling us exactly what it is, which we'll
There
come
you
on
go.
to as we build the stack. I like it. But like that's one of the things me and you always come back to and talking about, and it's why we champion cold calling so much. I think like sales is about relationship building, conversations, um, seeking to like understand before be understood, and the ability to do that in conversation is what's really going to drive a startup, an enterprise business, to have more customers, take better care of their customers, understand their customers, and build more pipeline and revenue and
Mhm.
more wins for their customers on off the back of that as well, right? um, Interesting that you built a team from 0 to 50. What sort of time frame was that? How many like different tools and different iterations of things did you have to go through to get from that 40K to, was it 16 million?
60 million, yeah. Historically speaking, when I joined that startup, they were a pre-seed and they were using Pipedrive.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I was the first sales hire and I started hiring people. And as you know, when you grow, so grows the complexity of everything that you're doing.
Yeah.
More people in, the the stack was getting messier and messier to maintain.
Yeah.
Historically speaking, we were using Pipedrive, we were using Intercom, we were using um, ChargeBee,
Yeah.
a bunch of different stuff that are very much well built for startups when they are
Hmm.
small and they are doing something which is more towards freemium, self-serve motion.
Yeah.
But as soon as you want to make the transition from self-serve to sales-led, it's a different beast. It's a different animal. And at some
Yeah.
point, we had to obviously move from Pipedrive to Salesforce. I grew that team over the course of 4 years,
Hmm.
and it was obviously across different functions. So BDRs, SDRs, inbound, outbound,
Yeah.
AEs, AMs, customer success teams, different needs, different universes, different orbits. And at some point, you realize that what's working for a BDR is not working for the CSM.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you have to add another tool on the top of that, and it becomes a zoo
Yeah.
of different tools, and you have to hire someone to
A
manage
zoo of
all of that.
tools. I'm stealing that.
There you go.
There you go. I knew there'd be good ones that I can nick off you, as always. Most of my ideas are probably nicked off you half the time.
Tag me when you're mentioning that.
Cool. So look, let's dive into it then. And like with that experience, transitioning from one CRM to another, like I'm sure there'll be a lot that we can talk about. But what how do you want to do this? Do you want to do this about the stack that you're currently using now in your own business and your own teams, or do you want to talk about like a specific example or maybe that transition you made in the past?
I mean, for this to resonate for the audience that you have, I think we can talk about my previous company where
Cool.
we were using obviously Pipedrive.
Yeah.
Um, what else do you need to know about Pipedrive? How many people we were?
Yeah, like it's helpful. Like I guess you kind of alluded to it in what you previously just said. Like Pipedrive is really good, simple CRM, which is quite intuitive. You can set up like the right list views, you can set up the right deal views, and you can get moving quite quickly,
Mhm.
and you can like track all of that. I think what would be interesting is talking about on just elaborating a bit more on like what was that transition from Pipedrive to Salesforce, and what are maybe the key things you think people should look out for that tells them that it could be worth it or it might just not be worth it at all
Yeah, that's a very
because
good
it's such a
question,
big
by the way.
undertaking.
The thing about Pipedrive is that it's really, really solid for a team of five,
Hmm.
probably up to 10.
Yep.
It's gamified. You can easily have people make sure that their tasks are being done. But as soon as you scale up, given the fact that Pipedrive is not, I mean, it didn't used to be as solid as it is today, by the way. So,
Hmm. Yeah.
FYI. But back then, it was super hard to understand where the data is coming from. How is it that we are maintaining the hygiene of the data? So, all of a sudden, we were treating a bunch of different prospects that
Hmm.
were coming through inbound, and we thought they're actually outbound. And the whole motion was becoming super, super complicated. FYI, at some point back at my previous company, we were having over 15,000 of signups every month.
Wow.
It was insane because that company was insanely good at anything PLG.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it was becoming a nightmare of allocating and assigning the right prospects to the right rep.
Yeah.
And oftentimes we would end up realizing that one rep who is not probably transparent enough is stealing the prospects and assigning them back to himself, whereas he
There's
should
always
need to.
one. There's always one who
I
works it out
know.
quicker than everyone else, and they're just like, "Yep, mine, mine, mine."
There you go. And funny enough, um, story time. That person, we had to part ways with that
Hmm.
person because I couldn't tolerate such a thing. Stealing prospects, meaning stealing commission from your
Yeah.
peers, it's not something that I can tolerate. But I think at the end of the day, if you had something which was a little bit more solid in terms of data hygiene, it could have been easier. We transitioned from Pipedrive to Salesforce
Yeah.
as soon as we were around 15 to probably 17 reps
Okay.
using that app.
And was that 15 to 17 sales reps, or was that like CSMs,
There were
account
two
managers, etc.?
CSMs.
Yeah.
There were two CSMs, and the rest of them there were across the board AEs, AMs, SDRs, and BDRs.
Cool. Nice. And that then allowed you to do things like auto assign leads, segment data, track, and better keep it like I guess a clean data hygiene, which meant
Absolutely.
your pipeline was better forecasted further down the line.
100%. And by the way, we had to actually hire someone as ops to take
Of
care of that
course.
because obviously Salesforce is one of the simplest platforms out there for startups to implement. Joking aside, no, we had to go through a company that was Salesforce partner.
Hmm.
Uh, I think the transition wasn't that much easy. We lost
Yeah.
probably a bunch of different data sets and it wasn't that much clean, but it took us a while to get it right.
And I assume, if you're getting like at one point, if you're getting 15,000 signups a month, like that's so much data to just work through and understand like
Yeah.
what are the ones that are worth chasing, following up, helping with upsell, cross-sell, all that type of stuff, and which are the ones which are like maybe low priority, not actually a good fit, and all that type of stuff. Like that's just a lot of data to even start with before you're even starting to talk about the outbound.
100%, 100%. And by the way, here's the funny part. The growth team had to stay with HubSpot for anything growth and landing pages and the conversion of the traffic.
I see. So you had HubSpot as well for a part
Yes.
of the team.
Yeah,
So that in itself can cause a bit of chaos.
it did.
Did you never not think about just moving everyone over to HubSpot?
I think it wasn't eventually my call because the growth
Mm,
team was pretty much independent in terms of what they were using and the stack that they had. They had a very solid stack. They were using Clearbit, they were using HubSpot, they were using Intercom, Mutiny at some point, so many tools
mhm, mhm.
in order to create a pipeline so that everything converts because
Yeah,
their KPI was solely focused on conversion of the PLG motion.
right.
And in an ideal world, I don't think they used to appreciate some of those leads being handled by the sellers
Yeah,
because at some point you want to say, you know what, that's my win and I've converted everything. But
yeah.
the huge problem for us was the fact that someone from, to give you an example, from let's say Microsoft, right?
Mhm,
Landing on our landing page, creating an account, using the freemium. You don't want that person to be ending up paying you $89 per month using
mm,
a credit card, right? You
mhm.
want to make sure that it is sales led, there is someone talking to them because that's already intent. So HubSpot was used to capture everything,
Mhm.
but getting every data back to Salesforce,
Yeah.
in my opinion, it wasn't that much easy.
Mm, yeah. And what you're kind of talking about there is like almost that's more of the, and this is again what I think what we're seeing a move back towards and a bit of understanding on. Like you mentioned intent briefly there, like that's going back to marketing.
Mhm.
Marketing are doing like driving people to the website, they're capturing all that sign up and stuff like that. And they should pass through the right things to the sales team. And then the sales team, you know, like we said already, focus on conversations, human to
Yeah,
human conversations. They don't need to be distracted with like tons and tons of different intent and all these different tools, right? So you got Salesforce then for the sales team. So we're kind of focused on that side of things. Where are you getting the data from? Like, how are you enriching? What other tools were maybe in use from like a data perspective?
yeah.
And that might not all be on here, but I assume hopefully some of them are.
I'm gonna actually let you know the ones that we're using. We're
Yeah,
obviously using Casper.
yeah,
We were using Clearbit before they were acquired. I don't know
yeah. Actually, I
which
haven't
you
got
got.
Clearbit on here. Have
Have
I?
I?
No, not yet.
Okay.
But Clearbit
Um,
is, for those who don't know, it's like a website identification, first party intent. It's actually part of the HubSpot suite as well now. So,
exactly. Um, we were using Zoom Info for the US team.
mhm,
We were using Cognizant at some point for the EMEA team because they were very good in terms of the data that they have and the hygiene of data that they have.
yeah. Oh,
Um,
nice. So you went for the two biggest, best. I guess they were maybe some of the first to market, but they're definitely the two biggest data enrichment
totally.
providers. So you have best of breed for both continents.
Exactly.
So how did that serve the team? Did that mean they were like completely covered all the time? And for people's context, Casper is, I believe, now owned by Cognizant anyway.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
right now, you probably wouldn't have both of those, but
Mm. Um, as far as I can remember, we used to have Cognizant for both North America and the EMEA region, but
mm,
North America didn't actually work out.
mm,
So we had to switch to ZoomInfo.
ah,
And same, ZoomInfo wasn't actually working for the EMEA region. And again, we're talking about 2022, 2023,
Yeah.
2024. I don't know whether or not today Cognizant is capable of doing everything that ZoomInfo does for North America, but it's been always a matter of getting the right data. I mean, right now I'm using Apollo, right?
Mhm.
It
Yeah.
works flawlessly for the US.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the European market, that's not that much up to the expectations that I have.
Yeah. Apollo like presents as having good data for everywhere, but like you're right, it's much better in the States. And if you're looking at EMEA, like Cognism is, I was talking to the SDR leaders of the EMEA community on like our last roundtable, and I think it was Harry Monkhouse had done a load of tests, and he was saying that Cognism had given like a huge um, was like much more accurate, particularly for EMEA than anything else he'd looked at.
That's legit. I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
I think, and by the way, I don't know whether or not they're going to crack the code at some point,
Mhm.
so that you don't end up buying two different tools for two different regions,
Yeah.
because that could become the bottleneck in terms of
Yeah.
the
Absolutely.
flows that you have and the hygiene of the data that you have, and you don't want to have duplicates and everything, right?
Absolutely. And so in this case, did you have a team in this like specific US reps? So they had Zoom Info licenses, and then you had specific EMEA reps with Cognizant licenses, or
Yes.
did each rep have you did? Did any reps cover both, and they had multiple
Not at
licenses?
all. At
Cool.
some point, we had a bunch of reps covering both EMEA and North America, but we hired a team based in North America.
Right.
So they're completely siloed.
Yeah.
Nothing was being transitioned into the EMEA
Cool.
pool, and not vice versa.
Cool. Because in that case, like you've given them specific reps, the specific tools to achieve their goals, right?
Mhm.
Whereas if you had a team that were covering both regions, buying them Cognizant licenses and Info licenses, you're going to rack up a cost quite quickly. And like you said, like you could start to maybe get bottlenecks where
Mhm.
just that whole thing of like if you're a rep and you've got a license for both, which order do you check them in? Do you end up with like three or four different plugins on your screen, and it will just like it slows you down that little bit. There are tools now, like if it was a modern team or like a team now where you had one rep covering both, I'd probably look at something like an upsell
Mm.
um, to create the contact and pull the contact into your CRM, and then I'd look at getting like Zoom Infos, Cognisms, and others on a credit based model. So work out how many credits on average my team need.
Yeah.
They have an upsell license to pull the contacts in, create the contact records, and then you use these other providers to enrich once it hits the CRM. So you're just paying for the credits as a group, not everyone having multiple licenses. But
Yeah. So here's the beef that I have,
mhm,
James,
go
when
for
it
it.
comes to the tools that we are obviously talking about. I think in an ideal world, we want to have one platform which is capable of consolidating a bunch of obvious and non-obvious needs that a rep might be having.
Hmm.
Because whenever I'm talking to sales managers, they have the honesty to admit that adding another tool on the top of everything that they have is becoming a nightmare.
Yep.
Just because not only there are overlaps between the different tools that they have, yet they cannot give up on using some of those apps despite the overlap, because they're
Hmm.
like, okay, in that area I need to keep it, in this area I need to keep this one.
Yep.
And then you wake up as a rep, you're like, damn, which one do I start with?
Yep.
Which one do I trust? And you realize, instead of probably dialing, picking up the phone, focusing on your discovery calls, the pipeline that you have, you end up spending a few hours figuring out which one is which. And again,
Yeah.
some of the average reps, they end up wasting a lot of time. Uh,
Exactly.
and
And
then that becomes an excuse, right?
exactly. And yeah, and that's exactly it. It becomes an excuse and a distraction. And
Mm,
instead of then the SDR leader or the sales leader being able to say, okay, this is my top performer, this person needs more help, this person, unfortunately, maybe they're not going to make it.
yeah.
What actually ends up happening is, oh, well, maybe that's a valid excuse. Okay, well, maybe that is is distracting the team. Okay, so we need to fix all of that. And you're looking, you're looking at point B when you need to be looking at A. Is this person capable of picking up the phone, talking to someone, managing that pipeline and following up? But you're not getting enough of that feedback, so makes it hard to see. And what I am seeing where companies are starting to get this right, they're starting to get back to like a lean stack of CRM list with a list view, the right data being pulled into that, and then lots of coaching to help their team just prospect consistently through that list and follow their follow-ups. They're actually able to do more and more with less reps,
There you go.
because the low performers are kind of weeded out,
Yeah.
and the middle ground performers they either up their game or
Yeah.
they stay in that bracket, and might not need them later down, and you can end up getting top performance out of 3 or 4 like real like top performing killers.
Yeah. I mean, to back you up here, if I were to defend for a second, just for a second, some of the average reps, I think the EQ is not given to everyone to understand that you need to figure it out and go with the right tools that you have at your disposal. Some of the
Mhm.
average reps, they are like, dude, I'm distracted. I don't know what to start with. I don't know
Yeah,
what to use. And it's probably on the company's stack and the ops team and the manager not to throw everything at them. I was talking to this manager the other day, and he's like, sorry, we think we've got everything, but at the same time, we've got not that much in terms of results.
yeah,
Even if you're spending probably 900 to 1200 dollars per month per rep in terms of stack and
yeah.
tools that we are giving them. And when you look back, I feel for the rep. I
Mm.
feel for the rep because the manager is asking them to fill up the pipeline and the CRM to make sure that they're talking to the right prospects. So they need to have a very clean list of prospects. And I start dreaming of those old days where we were given a list of prospects with their phone numbers on a piece of paper,
Yeah,
and we were just dialing.
yeah,
We were just dialing. It was way easier to understand whether or not this is landing with them. Do we need to move them forward or
yeah,
not? Today, we are like, okay, I've got the intent data, I've got the sales nav in front of me, I've got the history of, do I give him a call?
yeah,
I'm like, you should give him a call. You're
yeah.
overthinking it, but at the same time, it's not their fault.
Yeah, it's like decision paralysis. Too much information causes distraction, and you're
Yeah.
overthinking. People are overthinking everything. Oh, well, I've got this note from 9 months ago. I've got that note from last week, but we also spoke to that person. But we've actually got a mobile number for him, but he's never answered that one. But then this tool's given me another mobile number, and we've got 3 switchboard numbers. Which one do I call? Any of them, see if he answers.
There
Like,
you
that's
go.
the simple answer. And it's just like we just want to get back to like a clean list, clean view. And one thing to also touch on there is like I think you make a good point, like and like that empathy you've got for maybe like those average or those middle ground performers
Mhm.
where they could be really good
Yeah.
if they had the right process in front of them.
Yeah.
And what we're trying to do here, and this is what me and you talk about a lot, is like we want to get back to like the simple stack that enables people to have more human conversations,
Yeah.
and it's on the leadership to like do that. Like they need to set that example, they need to create that environment, create that process before starting to point fingers at who's not performing, who is performing.
Louder for the people in the back.
um so I like this. I'm gonna cut Casper just for if this was the currently you probably wouldn't go Casper if you already had Cognizant. What
Sure. Let
other
me.
we
By the way, let me
go
just plug in my Mac because it's gonna run out of charge.
on.
I know it's live being recorded, but I mean that's the beauty of doing something which is unscripted, right?
There you go. It shows a genuine conversation, and that's what we're all about. Um, so with that stack, I know the answer to this because I know you very well. what what was the channel that you were doing most of your outreach on? What did you have the sales team using to call out? or were they doing email? Were they doing LinkedIn?
So back then we were using a Lemlist for a couple of days, but we had to move away for some obvious reasons. I think they might be doing a good job for smaller teams, but when it
Hmm.
comes to bigger teams, and specifically if you're doing international,
Yeah.
you want to do something which is uh, better.
Hmm.
And we went ahead with Salesloft. And boy, I love Salesloft.
Nice.
I love Salesloft for so many good reasons.
Yeah.
And I think they've been the good kid in the space. They've been doing so many good things for the sellers, empowering them through something which is very straightforward, very simple to use. And the last time that I used them, they were expensive, but I
Hmm.
think it's worth it.
Hmm.
And I've heard that they're adding way more stuff. So right now you might be even able to get CI
Yeah.
using the recording the system that they have, the emailing system that they have. Between Salesloft and Outreach, I have an appetite for Salesloft, but
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah. Salesloft seems to be maybe of the two, the one that is like continuing to update,
yeah.
continuing to keep pace with the market. I mean, they I can't remember if did they acquire or their parent company acquired Drift. Drift rolled into Salesloft.
Oh, true.
6 Sense is pretty well integrated as well. I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
there's any plans on that front, but it wouldn't surprise me if they do something.
Mm-hmm.
So all three of those tools become one. Um, but you're right, they've got a lot more capability, and I've definitely said it to customers like they don't need a sales loft, like it's too overpowering for the size of team they've got, because a lot of the time it's startups that I'm talking to, teams of less than five.
Yeah.
um, but teams you're talking about, when you got up to towards sort of 50 reps, like an enterprise tool like that is powerful and definitely worth considering. And you're
100%.
right on the CI front as well. I'm sure they've got CI built in as well. And
Yeah.
people might complain about the dialer, or at least people used to. They said the dialer wasn't amazing. But did you use the Salesloft dialer when you had this stack, or did
All the
you
time.
have got it from?
All the time. We
And
were only and
absolutely
only
fine.
using, yeah, 100% fine.
Yeah.
The audio quality was very good. Logging, the calls was super easy, the disposition and everything. One thing that I forgot to mention about Salesloft was the fact that I ended up using Salesloft for pipeline management
Mm.
even more, even though we had Salesforce, because Salesforce dashboards, boy, someone should stop me from ranting about that. But it's not easy to build, it's not easy to maintain.
Yeah.
Whereas I think Salesloft, they have cracked the code where you can easily drag and drop some of the filters to easily see at what stage this rep is dropping the ball. So between disco call and proposal, there is a huge drop.
Hmm.
And it was such an easy thing to do. So I ended up doing my one-on-ones with my reps using Salesloft because you can easily understand where the danger is in terms of the opportunities that you have. Anyway,
Yeah. And like I think that's the thing. You're like, this is going back to some of the points we kind of touched on, but like one of the things that I push is like, for your SDR teams in particular, and your A's from like from their prospecting point of view, like you want to create like one place of work for them,
yep.
like one core place of work for them.
Mhm.
Normally it's the CRM, but if you're using something like a sales loft and you've got like an enterprise team like you're talking about, like you could get them just spending 80-90% of their day in Salesloft.
Yeah.
So use the deal management there. Don't have them running back and forth between everything they're doing in Salesloft, then to Salesforce, and back and forth. Like the cleaner and less distracted their time is, the better and more performance you get from them. So
Yeah.
you can have this all integrate back to Salesforce, but just set up like doing deal management in Salesloft. Absolutely nothing wrong with that.
100%. And by the way, something that you may have heard of as a tool, and I was a big fan, but we didn't have the approval to go ahead with that, was Scratchpad.
I've not heard of that.
Dude, that's a game changer. So Scratchpad, it was the tool that I wanted to have for my team to
Mhm.
update Salesforce, because Salesforce was becoming a nightmare. Fields not being filled up, reps are feeling overwhelmed with
Yeah.
everything that they have to. It was like filling up an Excel file every
Yeah. Yeah.
time. And the Scratchboard was solving actually that problem. And from the sounds of it, these days they have become agentic, which means that they listen to the call,
Mhm.
they go and fill up the CRM within Salesforce directly without
Ah,
you even thinking about that.
nice. Yeah, I'll check that out. And so is that like a dialer, or is it like a note taker and transcription?
Note taker
Yeah,
transcription, and then
nice,
on the back of that, their bread and butter is basically keeping the CRM up to date, clean,
nice.
and pipeline management.
Yeah, really nice. Rocket Phone would do a bit of that as well. Like that's a good, like
Mhm.
if you weren't using a Salesloft and you needed a dialer, the team were working from Salesforce. Rocket Phone sounds similar. Like that will, whilst you're making dials, transcribe things in real time and put that into the fields and update all the fields on the contact,
Mhm.
which is really cool. And then you just have to, before you hit save, you just check it's all in the right place, hit save, done,
Yes.
which is pretty good.
Mhm.
And then if is there any other tools then that you were using? Like, obviously, I don't think SecondBody existed when you
No.
were back then. But now, if this was a current team and they're doing a lot of cold calling, we're going to chuck in SecondBody and it doesn't, unless I'm wrong and I haven't updated it in time, doesn't integrate with Salesforce right now. But it's not really a blocker
No.
to why people should use it, because if you've got a team that is calling in this modern world, that remote environment, that doing things on your own, that lack of like real time feedback that you and I would have had when we were in when we learned to cold call for the last decade or so, they don't have that real time feedback and that volume of feedback that people get and that volume of practice you get by hearing the person next to you. Hanging up, asking the person next to you for, hey, did that sound right? Or why did you say that? Or what happened here? Second body replicates that, and gives every rep that ability, right?
I mean, not only you are spot on, there is also a market where calls are not being recorded.
Hmm.
And we're talking about reps who drive to see their prospects. We're talking about reps who talk to prospects who are not even allowed to be recorded. So we're talking about patients, healthcare professionals, we're
Yep.
talking about pharmaceutical, we're talking about medical devices. Um, there is a world where these people they want to understand when it comes to the management. Why is it that Omid is saying if he was in the same scenario talking to a high stake senior manager. So replicating that conversation in a safe environment where I can F up is having a huge market out there, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So when you look into like Allego, I have a lot of respect for them. I think they're doing a very good job. They have a huge market share. Gong, I mean, it goes without saying.
Yep.
Rocket Phone, Jiminy, Nooks. The foundation of these platforms is the fact that let me listen to the call, let me flag out what went wrong, and then you can actually coach people.
Yep.
But what if you don't have that level of visibility? What if there is nothing being recorded? That's actually where we chime in.
Hmm.
And one thing that we wanted to be so bullish about was maybe you don't need an integration to uplift your team. Maybe you simply need to make them come practice with conversational AI and
Yep.
make it gamified for a couple of minutes and they're done with their day and they can get
Yep.
cracking with their cold calling.
And like that, the analogy I always think of, and I started using when I'm talking to the teams that I use it with, is like when you go to, if you play a sport and stuff, you have the pitch that you use on match day,
Mhm.
but your training, your coaching, you go to the gym. You might go to the practice pitch. You might go to the 3G pitch, practicing certain skills, practicing certain elements of the game. And then game day, you go to the pitch. You have an opponent. You have real people there. It doesn't mean that all that like off like that like gym and that 3G pitch or that other stuff wasn't useful. No, it gave you all those skills that on game day you've got it to hand.
There
And
you go.
that's the analogy I'm using
There you go.
to
I
describe
love
it to
that, by the
people.
way. I'm gonna be stealing that one from you now.
There
The
you
the
go.
thing the thing that comes to mind to echo what you're saying is that the flaw that we are hearing about when we're talking to other managers is the fact that they have the honesty to admit that there is an explosion of insights
Hmm.
that are being given.
Hmm.
So going listening to calls, analyzing everything, showing what went wrong, what opportunity went south, what good looks like. And managers, they have had this fallacy of, okay, let me dump everything into a folder and let me
Yeah.
put this in front of James
Yeah.
and ask him to watch it till he gets better. It's as if you and I would go to the US Tennis Open
Yeah.
to watch a tennis match, pretending that we're going to get good at playing tennis.
Yeah.
It has never worked like that. So how
No.
do you go from watching to doing?
Yep.
And sometimes it's an easy thing. It's basically making people practice rather than forcing them to watch a few hours of content.
Yeah. And like I think any of like the best performing cold call teams, like they're familiar with the concept of role playing, practice pitching.
There you
I
go.
mean, like people, this is just like occurred to me as well. Like people will do that in their interview process. You'll ask someone to do a practice pitch with you and like a role play with you. Then they start the job. It's like, why isn't that continuing? Like that needs to be happening daily, weekly, between different people, different scenarios, like constantly outside of it at waiting for it to happen on a call and then going, cool, this is what you should have done. Well,
Yeah.
it's too late. Like,
You
and
know,
you've really enabled that really well.
James, I think you and I, we know a few things about sales performance. And one thing that is very much taken for granted are the prospects.
Hmm. Yeah.
We take them for granted because we think there are so many of them out there and we want to probably get better while talking to them at the same time. I mean, back to your analogy, it's as if you F up so many different games thinking that you're getting better, but obviously you're losing the score that you should be
Hmm.
gaining.
Hmm.
Um, and managers that are like, okay, that's probably not a must-have to
Yeah.
practice. Since when? Since when did you stop going to the gym thinking that you're going to get uh, more in shape
Yeah.
just by staying at home and eating and not moving around? It's the exact same thing.
Well, if you looked at the last year of my life, that's what I was hoping would happen.
It wasn't my goal to bring this up. Sorry, mate.
um, but look, you're absolutely right, and that's what Second Body's done. It's created like a great like training ground for your reps, um, and you can give templates. They have a safe space to go. Like that's what training grounds are for. That's what training environments are for. It's a safe place to practice your skills. Drop the ball, doesn't matter.
There you
Gives you,
go.
but you do it enough. You drop the ball less and less and less, and then on game day, you're ready.
Yeah, there you go.
Nice, man. Any other tools that you'd add to this, or is this a nice place to stop? Because I think that's a really good enterprise grade sales stack,
Um,
which is nice and lean.
I mean, I were about to say probably to add Gong, but I realized that Loft right now does listen to calls and it does have the
Yeah,
CI. Cognizant is doing probably the same thing to some extent. Does it? Does it record the calls? No, it doesn't.
I don't believe it does yet, but
No, it
they
doesn't.
have some big updates coming, which
Mm,
may include that.
seems like you know stuff.
Might know some updates that might be coming.
Come on, James. Now that you've started the conversation, you should actually carry on. What is it that you know that we don't know?
No, there's a big update coming with their sales agent, but I don't know everything that includes yet. That's
Damn.
all.
Okay. All right.
Um, but it's interesting, and this is what like we um, we keep coming back to when we're doing these conversations. That is a sales stack that a lot of people would have seen a few years ago, and it's still perfectly good with the addition of Second Body, which people will go, oh, but what about AI tools for this? What about AI tools for that? It's like it doesn't necessarily make your team any better and your pipeline any better if you haven't got the basics set up. What we've got here is solid data tools, and if you had decent budget, because one thing this estimated cost isn't pulling in is the cost of like the Zoom Info and Cognism, because it's only got the minimum public facing costs that we can see. So these three tools in the middle probably going to add decent amount of cost to that. But if you're an enterprise company and you want the best data and you're going to use it properly, there's nothing wrong with a stack like this. And SecondBody's there for like creating a great training ground.
What is SecondBody again? I've never heard of them.
Skills building platform designed to help employees master the nuance of high stakes conversations.
Oh, that's full of fluff, man.
That's
That's full of
what would
um,
you say? Call it. What would you if I change that to one sentence
no,
with zero?
I'm just teasing you. I'm just teasing. Obviously, I gave you that spiel, so I'm roasting myself.
I know, man. But look, pleasure to speak as always, Omid. Thank you for sharing your insights. And
Anytime.
if people want to learn more about SecondBody and learn how to build like a top performing cold call or just any top performing sales team that gets better and better with its conversations, it's worth going and speaking to Omid.
And let me just probably take a few seconds to tell everyone something, because you are such a humble person. I think what you are doing.
This is where I'm going to turn off the recording.
No, come on, keep it on. I'm gonna share that. You don't need to share that so that it's not gonna come off as bragging. But I think what you are doing for the space, I wish those partners that that were working for Salesforce or any other major platform, I wish they had the honesty to say that sometimes this needs to be simpler. Sometimes you don't need that many tools in order to do one thing.
Yeah,
I think they had a different agenda back then, which was okay. Let me go ahead, get more referral and get
yeah.
more commission. Whereas today, if you can get done way more stuff with less, everyone is going to be appreciating you. So this is exactly what you're doing, and I think people are going to end up realizing that it is way more important to be working with someone like you rather than going around adding so many stuff to their stack just to create pollution.
Well, thanks, man. Appreciate it. And if we can help simplify this, this crazy like sales tech world we've created, then it's only going to benefit sellers and it's going to benefit businesses. They can do more with less and create pipeline, and everyone wins.
There you go.
Nice, man.
Thanks for having me again.